Hey everybody, it's Matt from the house, and in this video we're going to talk to you about a few easier ways to wax your board other than the traditional hot wax. Let's check this out. Okay, obviously nothing beats a good hot wax on your board. It's the best and the most durable way to keep the wax in your board and keep your board going fast. But not everybody has an iron on them. If you do, sometimes you just don't have the time, or you're in a place where you don't have your iron with you and you can't, but you need to get your board going. So we're gonna show you an easier and the easiest way to wax your board. One that does actually involve the iron. So obviously if you have your iron, melting that wax in, scraping it off, that's always the best way to do it. You crack yourself open a can of your favorite beverage and you just basically spend some time getting that board ready to go. But if you do have an iron and you don't have the time to actually do the whole process, one thing that you actually can do to make it a little bit faster is basically get your board set up just like you were gonna hot wax it. Get your iron set to the regular temperature that you usually would when you're hot waxing your board. And for those of you that don't know about that, we'll leave a link in the description to our video about how to wax your board that has all that information. But a lot of times when you look at a lot of the waxes that you buy, they'll actually say that they are rub-on or hot wax. So you can actually use the wax in both ways. You can use it as just a rub-on, but you can also use it as a hot wax. So basically what you can do is, again, if you don't have the whole time to do the whole thing, you just got to get some wax on your board and get out to the hill. Take your wax and rub it on your board exactly like you would with a rub-on board. And you're basically going to rub that thing on there and get a good coat. And you can see too, and especially if you have a light off to the side, you can see exactly where that wax is. And you don't have to go super crazy on this. Again, we're trying to keep it nice and easy. And this is for, when you don't have a lot of time to actually wax the board. But basically get yourself a good coating where you can actually see the lines are pretty much everywhere on the board. And then once you've rubbed it on there, then we're actually gonna take our iron and we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna drag it along the board in a few spots here, just kind of even out that wax that you just rubbed on there, and we're gonna basically melt it into the base a little bit. So this definitely can help. Your board is, the base of your board is a porous surface, and the reason we hot wax is we want the wax to be in the board, not on the board. And usually when you do a rub-on wax, you buff it, but we can actually throw the iron on it real quick. And this is gonna melt it into the board a little bit. Just to get it set so the wax does try to get down into the base. If we don't have the full hot wax where you're actually melting the wax, dripping it on your board, that's gonna get more wax and you're gonna be melting more wax to help it seep into the board. So it is a better way to do a hot wax. But again, for the quickness, this is a great way to do it. And then you're gonna take your buffing pad, just like a scouring pad, and you're just gonna buff the board really quick after you're done. So this is gonna take basically that rub-on wax and it's gonna take it to one more level where you actually are gonna try to melt it and get it into the base a little bit. So it's gonna last a little bit longer throughout the day. All right, next easiest way, we actually don't need the iron, so we can put that away. The next is actually to check out a rub-on wax. So I've got the Burton Rub Down All Temp wax here. And we're gonna have a lot of different all temp rub down waxes from a lot of companies. We'll leave a link in the description down below to all those waxes. But the really cool thing about the rub down waxes is this is a nice one that you can obviously do at your home, but you can also actually take this wax and a lot of times it'll come with a buffing pad. Sometimes it's actually attached to the wax. Sometimes it's attached to the packaging. I've seen it in a bunch of different ways. But basically with your rub down waxes, you're gonna get, a bar, and then usually you're gonna get a little piece of a buffing pad. If you don't have it, honestly, just having a scouring pad, like a, SOS pad for your dishes and stuff, that's pretty much what a lot of them are. But again, with the Burton wax, a lot of times you look at this and you're just like, that doesn't seem like much wax. But the cool thing about this is you actually don't need a lot of wax when you're doing a rub-on wax. So super easy. We're gonna do just like we did with the last one where we melted it in, but with this one, we're gonna rub that stuff on there and we're gonna again get you know, a good coat. You don't have to go crazy, just because the more wax you rub onto this thing, the more you're actually gonna have to buff. So you don't need to keep going over the same spot over and over and over again. But again, get a good rub in the wax, you know, check in the light, make sure that you've got a good amount of, you know, of the board covered. And basically get a good rub in there. And then once you can see that you've got, you know, a good amount of the board actually covered with the rub-on wax. Let me do one more second here, just double check. But again, once you can see that you've got that, and you can see I obviously just waxed the board and this doesn't look like anything's happened to it. So these do look small, but they do last a long time. Now we're actually gonna take our little buffing pad and we're just gonna go really, really quick. And basically with this, what we're kind of doing is we're creating a little bit of friction, and that's gonna help try to melt that wax down. And it's also gonna help spread it out just a little bit and smooth it out. I mean, technically you don't have to do this, but if you have the buffing pad, it definitely can give you a little bit better coverage, and a little bit better or smoother feel to the bottom of your board. And your board is going to ride a little smoother on the snow. But again, give it a quick buff. And again, just kind of look down, and if you actually can look in the light while you're doing it, you can actually see those spots where the wax is, and the more you buff it, you can actually see it kind of smooth out, and it almost looks like it almost disappears. But you're basically just kind of using the friction to melt that wax into the board. And then once you get the board nice and buffed out, I always like to take a few long strokes from tip to tail, push down nice and hard, just to kind of give it a nice smooth feel. Boom. And now your board's ready to ride. All right, last up, this is going to be the absolute easiest way to wax your board. And that's gonna be basically kind of like a rub-on paste. So we've got the all-season speed sauce from Burton. And again, there's, you know, a lot of different versions. We carry, you know, a lot of companies do have this. We like the Burton stuff. It's kind of nice because it comes in this nice little jar. It has a little pad inside too. So the cool thing with this is you can throw it in your bag and you've always got, you know, wax no matter where you're at. But what this stuff is exactly what it sounds like. It's kind of like a paste. So what you do is you get that buffing pad out, and then you see you got a little bit of paste down in there. And then all you're gonna do is you're basically going to go ahead, wipe a little bit of it onto the pad, and then we're going to apply it to the board. And you basically just kind of do it in kind of a circular motion. And again, kind of look at it just right in the light, and you can actually see where you've applied this. And this is the nice thing about this too, is that this is something that you can actually do, you know, at your car. Because the cool thing about the paste is that it is, you know, exactly what it sounds like. It is a paste, and you can actually, you know, see on my finger there. You actually do want this to harden up a little bit before you go ride. So the cool thing is you can do this, you know, pull your board out of your warm car, grab the paste, and before your board has a chance to actually get cold, throw the paste on there, and then set your board down. And with the cold weather, it'll actually help that paste harden up a little bit while you're getting ready and putting all your gear on, getting ready to ride. And then by the time you got your boots and your outerwear and everything on, the paste is hardened up and it's all ready to ride. So, but again, it's super, super easy. We're just gonna buff this in almost like we're buffing some furniture or putting some, you know, wax on the car. That's kind of what it is. It's funny, if you look at it, it actually does look like car wax. Don't use car wax. So we basically buff this thing onto the board. And again, I like to use those circular motions, make sure you got everything covered. And then again, just a personal thing, I like to go back and forth along the length of the board just to smooth everything out. And then again, let this sit out in the cold for a couple minutes, and that paste is gonna harden up, and then you're gonna be ready to ride. All right, well, thanks for checking out our video on our easier and easiest ways to wax your board. Obviously a good hot wax where you melt it in, scrape it, buff it, that's the best way to do it, but we're not always in a place where we can do that, and we don't always have the time to do that as well. So these are some great options. The one thing to keep in mind is that the easier it is to put on, it's not gonna last as long. So again, the harder it is to put on, it's gonna last longer. So not that these are bad ways to wax your board, but the cool thing about these is these are always a good thing to have. Whether you wax your board all the time or not, I just tell people, get yourself one of these. They don't cost much, they last a long time, and you can actually take this and throw it in a little Ziploc bag, chuck it in your your snowboard bag, throw it in your car, or even the paste, which actually comes in a little tub. And you can basically just take these and leave it with your snowboard stuff so you always have it with you. And if you get one of those days where maybe it's a really dry snow and you feel like your board's going slow, you can run out to your car, go to your bag, throw some wax on your board real quick, and it'll make a world of difference to get you through the rest of the day. But if you've got any questions about this or any of the other stuff that we've got at thehouse.com, leave us some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We want to make sure we get you some rad gear, but we also want to make sure that it's going to work right too, no matter when you're riding. Like, subscribe, definitely make sure to get that notification bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. And yeah, wax your board. If you got snow in your area, get out and ride, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.